Unit 1 tells about economics. There are four main ideas. Firstly, the author introduces the definition of economics. Economics is the study of how people choose to use resources to satisfy their needs and wants. Secondly, the article tells about two main types of economics. They are macroeconomics and microeconomics. Microeconomics focuses on the action of individuals and industries, like the dynamics between buyers and sellers, borrowers and lenders. Macroeconomics analyzes the economic activity of the entire country in an entire country of the international marketplace. Thirdly, it tells about three important economic theories. They are Adam Smith, Karl Marx and Keynes. And finally, it tells about the benefits of studying economics. Studying economics can help people and countries become wealthy. Unit 3 tells about microeconomics. Microeconomics is concerned with the decisions made by consumers, workers, investors, business firms, and so on. There are three important themes of microeconomics. Firstly, much of microeconomics is about limits, and it is about the allocation of scarce resources. In a planned economy, these allocation of mostly by the government. In modern market economies, consumers, workers and firms have much more flexibility and choice when it comes to allocating scarce resources. Secondly, microeconomics describes the trade-offs that consumers, workers and firms face, and shows how these trade-offs are made. Consumer theory describes how consumers, based on their preferences, maximize their well-being by trading off the purchase of more of some goods with purchase of less of other. Workers' theory. First, people must decide whether and when to enter the workforce. Second, workers face trade-offs in their choice of employment. Finally, workers must sometimes decide how many hours per week they wish to work, thereby trading off labor for leisure. Firms also face limits in terms of the kinds of products that they can produce and the resources available to produce them. Finally, microeconomics describes how prices are determined. Unit 4 tells about macroeconomics. There are four main ideas. Firstly, it tells about the definition of macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is a branch of economics that studies the economic activity of an entire country and economy-wide phenomena. Secondly, it tells about the goals of macroeconomics. Macroeconomics looks at overall economic trends, such as employment levels, economic growth, balance of payments, inflation and so on. Thirdly, it tells about the policies of macroeconomics. Plus monetary policy, which controls a nation's money supply, is supervised by each country's central bank. Plus fiscal policy, which controls a government's revenue and spending, is in the hand of the Ministry of Finance. The objectives of these policies are to promote economic growth and keep inflation under control. Finally, it tells about the differences of macroeconomics and microeconomics. Microeconomic is generally the study of individuals and business decisions, while macroeconomic looks at higher-up country and government decisions and so on. However, they are actually interdependent and complement one another, since there are overlapping issues between two fields. Unit 5 tells about demand and supply. There are four main ideas. Firstly, it tells about the influence of price. If a price of a good and service increases, the quantity demanded will decrease and the quantity supplied will increase, and vice versa. Secondly, it talks about shift factors. Shift factors of demand: society's income, prices of other goods, buyers' expectations and tastes. Shift factors of supply: prices of inputs, technology, taxes, and suppliers' expectation. Thirdly, it tells about demand and supply curve. A change in price will cause a movement along a given demand curve or supply curve. A change in one of the shift factors will shift the demand curve or supply curve to the left or to the right. Finally, it tells about equilibrium. Equilibrium is a situation in which there is no tendency for change. A market is in equilibrium when the quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied at a certain price. Unit 6 tells about public finance. Public finance is concerned with how the government raises and spends their money. Unit 6 has 4 main ideas. Firstly, it tells about a federal budget. Federal budget comes from different kinds of taxes. Among them, there are 3 main sources: income taxes, corporate income taxes, and payroll taxes. Secondly, it tells about 2 kinds of funds from taxation. Federal funds are general revenues that fund the government in general. Trust funds can be used only to pay for very specific programs such as Social Security and Medicare. Income taxes and corporate taxes are designated as federal funds while payroll taxes become trust fund. Thirdly, it tells about borrowing. When all taxes for a given year are insufficient to cover all of the government's expense, the Treasury borrows a money to make up the difference. The Treasury borrows money by issuing bonds and other types of securities. Finally, it tells you federal debt. The federal debt is the sum of the debt held by the public plus the debt held by federal account. Unit 7 tells about fiscal policy. There are 4 main ideas. Firstly, it tells about the definition and aims of fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is concerned with taxation and government spending. The main objectives of fiscal policy are to promote economic growth, reduce unemployment, or control inflation. Secondly, it tells about 2 types of fiscal policy. Fiscal policy can be either expansionary or contractionary. Fiscal policy is expansionary when taxation is reduced or public spending is increased. Fiscal policy is contractionary when taxation is increased or public spending is decreased. Thirdly, it tells about factors of fiscal policy. When making decisions on fiscal policy, internal factors such as economic growth, unemployment, political considerations, natural disasters, and external factors such as fiscal policies of other countries, requirement of IMF. Finally, it tells about deficit spending. Deficit spending is spending funds obtained by borrowing or printing instead of taxation. Deficit spending can be either helpful or harmful for the economy. Unit 8 tells about taxation. The main function of taxation are to raise revenue to finance government expenditure, to dissuade people from smoking, drinking alcohol, to redistribute wealth among people in the society. People evade taxes in some ways. Self-employed people have undeclared their incomes. Many people have undeclared their part-time jobs. Criminal organizations tend to pass money through a series of companies in very complicated transactions in order to disguise its origin from tax inspectors. People avoid paying taxes in some ways. Employees receive perks such as cars, health insurance, subsidies to lunches, life insurance policies, pension plans. Other investments can help people postpone the payment of tax. Multinational companies set up their head office in countries with low tax rates. Unit 10 tells about insurance. There are 3 main ideas. Firstly, the author introduces the definition of insurance. Insurance is a financial arrangement that redistributes the cost of unexpected losses. Secondly, the article tells about the operation of insurance system. Losses can be predicted in advance. It allows the cost of losses to be financed and redistributed in advance, in exchange for the payment of the premium. The insured receives a promise from the insurance system to be compensated when a loss occurs. People are willing to pay an insurance premium to be relieved of uncertainty about a loss, as well as to be compensated when it actually occurs. Even no loss occurs, they have still certain benefits such as eliminated unpleasant mental state, the anxiety about loss. Finally, it tells about the difference between insurance and gambling. Insurance is not like gambling by ways insurance is legal and gambling is illegal. Unit 11 tells about money and its functions. There are three main ideas. Firstly, it tells about the definition of money. Money is a commodity accepted by general consent as a medium of economic exchange. Secondly, it talks about four functions of money. As a medium of exchange, money is a medium through which people exchange for goods and services. As a unit of account, money is used to measure value of goods and services in units of account such as dollar, yen, euro, so on. As a store of value, money can be used to make purchase in the future. As a standard of deferred payments, money is used to settle debts in the future. Finally, it tells about two kinds of money. Commodity money. The value of commodity money is equal to the value of the material contained in it. Examples of commodity of money are gold, silver, copper, so on. Token money. The purchasing power of token money greatly exceeds its material value. Examples of token money are coins, banknotes, checks, so on. Unit 12 tells about monetary policy. There are three main ideas. Firstly, it tells about objectives of monetary policy. By adjusting the money supply, the main objectives of monetary policy are to promote economic growth, reduce unemployment and control inflation. Secondly, it tells about quantitative tools. Three major tools of monetary policy are reserve requirement, discount rate and open market operations. Finally, it talks about two types of monetary policy, expansionary monetary policy. The monetary policy is expansionary when the money supply is increased. The monetary policy should be expansionary when unemployment is higher, the economic growth rate is low. Restrictive monetary policy. The monetary policy is restrictive when the money supply is reduced. The monetary policy should be restrictive when the economy is overheating. Unit 14 tells about the foreign exchange market. There are four main ideas. Firstly, it tells about the definition of foreign exchange market. The foreign exchange market is the market in which such national currencies are exchanged. Secondly, it tells about features of the foreign exchange market. It is not an organized market in fixed hour in a physical meeting place. The foreign exchange market is an over-the-counter market, the primary communication instruments being the telephone and the computer, and the market has developed rapidly in the past quarter century. Thirdly, it tells about two types of transactions. Spot transactions are undertaken for an actual exchange of currencies 2 business days later. Forward transactions involves a delivery date further into the future. Finally, it tells about participants of the foreign exchange market. They are customers as multinational corporations, market makers as banks, and broker as specialist companies.